In Cajun country west of New Orleans, sugarcane and moss-draped oaks are rooted in the landscape. Catholicism runs just as deep. But 30 years ago, the actions of one priest, Gilbert Gotye, and the church cover-up that followed would test parishioners' faith and in many cases change it forever.
These were all devout, regular Catholics. But something overpowered their devotion that was messing with their kids.
Gotye was an abuser even in the seminary in the early 1970s, targeting young boys at what was then a Catholic orphanage in New Orleans. Ted Lachey was a preteen when he was given the privilege of going home with Gotye one night.
I fell asleep, and when I woke up, he had pulled my shirt over my thing so that I couldn't move my arms. He had a pillow over my head. You know, there was nothing I could do.
He says after Father Gotye raped him came a chilling warning.
He pulled out a .45 and he stuck it in my mouth. And he said, if you tell anybody, I'll kill you.
Lachey says he told a nun. She responded by punching him in the face. Gotye was apparently reassigned, a pattern repeated as he settled in the nearby Lafayette diocese. After rumblings of abuse, church officials would transfer him from one parish to another, at one point even appointing him as chaplain for the Boy Scouts. This church in Henry, Louisiana was Gotye's last stop before his fall from grace. A parishioner here who didn't want to be on camera told us that Father Gotye was very popular, but one thing did seem odd. From the moment he got here, he began hosting sleepovers for his young altar boys. In 1983, one of those altar boys broke down, confiding in his parents. Others followed. The diocese quietly settled for millions, but one traumatized family would not be silenced, and Gilbert Gotye became the first U.S. priest to face a civil trial on sex abuse charges.
I think the events here, in a sense, were like a forecast of what was to come.
Jason Berry, who first reported extensively on the case, says Gotye molested more than 100 boys, and the church covered it up.
The church's first concern as an institution was to protect the priest, and secondly, to try and blanket the facts with silence so that there would be no scandal to the church.
As an attorney at the Vatican Embassy in Washington, D.C., Reverend Thomas Doyle was asked to keep an eye on the growing scandal. He says his reports went all the way to Rome. Doyle and two others involved in the case were so horrified they drafted a first-of-its-kind blueprint for handling pedophile priests and helping families, warning, quote, time is of the essence, and estimating a staggering, quote, $1 billion in future damages. In 1985, the document was sent to every Catholic bishop in America.
I could not believe that the bishops would not respond to this with horror and do the right thing.
He says the hierarchy did nothing.
He was like Jeremiah at the wall. I mean, he was blowing the trumpet saying, you've got to do something about this. And of course, they punished him and ousted him from his job for doing that.
Doyle, who eventually left the priesthood, wonders what might have been if the church had just taken a different path.
What they didn't count on was that they didn't know everything and they weren't going to be given a pass by society, by the media, or by the courts.
Or by their victims.
Or by their victims.
In 2005, U.S. bishops finally adopted a charter to help protect children from sexual abuse.
Emphasizing this is unacceptable, it's intolerable, it's sin, it's a sickness, and it's a crime.
The policy also calls for transparency. So we asked Monsignor Richard Green, a spokesman for the Lafayette Diocese, why the current bishop refuses to reveal the names of 15 past priests who were part of sex abuse settlements. So these aren't people who may be falsely accused. These are people who the church determined should no longer be in ministry.
That's right, and they're removed from ministry.
Right, but they could still be out there potentially abusing other children.
That is a possibility.
As for Gilbert Gotye, he pled guilty to criminal charges, but served just 10 years in prison.
I have heard stories that he's living in Texas. I've heard that he's in ill health. He basically sort of, disappeared.
But there's no erasing what happened for victims such as Ted Lachey.
In order for me to heal, I need accountability. I can't heal without it. I can't live with it. They're having the year of mercy, and, I would say to them, no prevention, no redemption.
Even all these years after a priest took advantage of a scared young boy, Lachey does not believe the Catholic Church has made amends. Lisa Stark, Al Jazeera, Vermilion Parish, Louisiana.